So Tom, I've in ministry you hear a lot about discernment and vocation and the call, and I believe everyone's called to different things. So can you tell me a little bit about your calling, your call story?
Well, probably like with most people, it was very difficult to discern. And in a practical way, I feel like from the time I was 16 years old, I knew I wanted to be a minister. All the elements and components of ministry were so appealing to me, the variety, doing something meaningful, serving people, serving God, etc., etc. But that whole notion of call was incredibly elusive for me. And I only gained some clarity when I was in my first year of seminary, and I was in Clayton, California, in the Bay Area, and I was working with, shadowing a minister, Tom Fisher, and I had been there for 2.5 or 3 weeks and was almost coming to the end of this very powerful and good experience. And I had an acquaintance by the name of Wally Walker, who played for the Seattle Supersonics. And they were playing in San Francisco. And so I had made arrangements. I was going to take the night off, and I was going to go to the game. And then I was going to go out and have a hamburger and a beer with Wally after the game.
Wow.
So, cool time.
Yeah.
Well, to make a long story short, just before I left to go to the game that afternoon, Tom Fisher came to me and he said, I just got a phone call from a long-term member of the church, and her husband has been found unconscious 2 hours away in a hotel in Sacramento. And
wow.
Do you want to go to the game or do you want to come with me? And Tom had been a great guy, and as much as I wanted to go to that game and go hang with Wally Walker afterwards, I decided to go with Tom. So he took the wife of this gentleman in one car. I took his daughter in another car. And as soon as we left Clayton, we were going 75 miles an hour as fast as we could go. As we got closer and closer to Sacramento, I noticed that she started driving slower and slower and slower. It was almost like they were trying to hold on to life as they knew it for as long as they could, because they had a sense of what they were going to find. As we got to the hospital, it was clear he suffered a massive aneurysm. There's no way he was going to live. They ended up taking him off life support, and he died. The daughter and I then had to go to his hotel room and collect his belongings. And this is a Friday night, and I find myself in Sacramento, California. The word sacrament obviously is symbolic there. And I'm in this hotel, and as we walk in, it's filled with people in their 20s and early 30s partying and drinking and having beers and having fun and dancing, and there's a band, and that's the background as I'm walking down this hallway with this woman I barely knew on a Friday night to go gather her dead father's belongings. And as we open the door to the room, for the first time I really had the experience of the smell of death. And I'm got a bag that the hotel had given us, and I'm collecting these wingtips that would never be worn again, and his daughter's has tears in her eyes, and we gathered all this stuff, and as I'm walking down the hallway to leave and seeing all these people having fun that just a year before I entered seminary, that could very easily have been me at that hotel, I had this overwhelming sense that as crazy as it was, is that I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, and that I wouldn't have it any other way. And to some people it may sound nutty that, why would you want to be with someone you barely knew on a Friday night in a hotel, going through some guy who just died, going through and gathering his stuff, and then missing out on this great time I had planned. And there was just a powerful sense that I would rather be doing that than anything else in the world, which was being a help to someone else. And the ministry is the way that I can be a caregiver or help other people in God's name. And so there's been a few times that I've questioned that call, especially when I was in a tall steeple church as an associate. But what has come back to me time and time again is that, I really am supposed to be a minister, and happily at this stage of the game, I don't question that for a second, and as difficult as it was, I'm grateful for that experience in Sacramento. What about with you? How do you, what was your call to the ministry? Did you struggle the same way that I did for many years?
I definitely have struggled with it, and I think there are different layers to the struggle. It's taken me a long time to reconcile that I wasn't really weird for being called to the ministry.
These are separate issues. These are separate issues.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like, being called to ministry, I for a time I thought is just so out there. Like, why did I feel so called to it? But then I realized, there are all sorts of people that I've met that feel called to what they're doing. They're doctors, they're advocates in a courtroom, they're humanitarian relief workers. I mean, just all sorts of people. There are authors and musicians that they just belong there. I mean, they could do no other thing, and that's what they think, that's what they breathe. And ever since I was a kid, I've just, the earliest memory of it, maybe it was 5, that I can recall memories of being in church and looking at the pastor and having no idea what I was getting myself into. I just wanted to be the person up there that somehow had this connection with people and spoke about things that I didn't understand then, and I don't understand that much more now. But I don't know. It's always been very intuitive for me to pray.
Well, that's a gift.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's always been a struggle for me. I remember in seminary, there's a book that we had to read for a class on prayer, and the author said, prayer should be like breathing. It should be as natural as breathing. And I desperately longed to have that experience. And it's taken me probably 25 or 30 years to even approach that place,